All right, thank you so much for your always stellar work. We appreciate it, keeping the wheels running here during our virtual session. I will go ahead and let the secretary know that she can begin her recording as well. And strike my virtual gavel. We will come to order. Welcome to the Senate Committee on Growth and Infrastructure. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Senator Brooks.
Here.
Senator Hammond.
Here.
Senator Pickard.
Here.
Senator Spearman. Chair Harris.
Here. I will note that there are 4 members present. Please mark Senator Spearman present as she arrives, and per usual, I will try and flag that for you for the record. All right, time to remind you all what we do daily. Please be courteous and respectful with others during the meeting, even if you disagree with another person's position. And for those participating on Zoom, please be sure to mute your microphones when not speaking. We have one bill on the agenda today, that is SB 48, which requires the director of the Department of Motor Vehicles to designate an agent to provide certain services in certain remote cities. At this time, I'd like to welcome Mayor Corona to present this bill. Welcome, Mayor. Go ahead, please state your name for the record and proceed when you are ready.
All right, thank you. For the record, I'm Mayor Daniel Corona, representing the city of West Wendover. Good afternoon, Chair Harris, Vice Chair Brooks, and members of the committee. I want to begin by thanking you all for taking the time to hear SB 48. For those of you who are unfamiliar with West Wendover, we are an incorporated city in eastern Elko County on the Utah border. West Wendover and surrounding areas are home to over 5,000 residents who currently have to drive over 200 miles round trip to Elko to access any DMV services that are not currently offered online. For many, this means taking time off of work and occasionally making multiple trips. Any of you who have driven the stretch of I-80 between West Wendover and Elko during the winter know that this trip is not always the safest one to make due to weather. For all of these reasons, the City Council voted unanimously to request the drafting of this bill. As some of you may recall, the City of West Wendover requested a similar bill in the 80th legislative session, SB 65. It passed out of the Senate with unanimous support near the end of session, but unfortunately ran out of time in the Assembly. Throughout the interim, the city has been working with the DMV to try to come to an agreement that would bring services to West Wendover. I want to thank the DMV for the cooperative nature that they approached our discussions. However, it became clear to the city that for any agreement to work, many of the issues that SB 48 addresses would first need to be fixed. The first of which is amending NRS 482.160 to give the DMV the ability to enter into similar agreements with certain rural cities that they currently have with 7 rural counties. This would allow those cities to offer registration services at their city halls, as well as retain 5% of the governmental services tax collected on each transaction to help offset some of the costs incurred by the cities for offering such services. For example, after receiving transaction data from the DMV, the city of West Wendover anticipates that we would likely have to hire an additional staff member to help with the increased workload. This is something that we would very happily do in order to offer these services to our community. In closing, I would again like to thank you all for your time on this matter, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I will open it up to any committee members who might have any questions. Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Chair. The only question I have really, Mayor, is I've heard from some of my colleagues, especially Senator Goycochea, who represents a lot of rural area. And he said that right now it really is a mess. Folks trying to get into the DMV, folks receiving information that they're behind, and the fees and penalties associated with being behind. How how fast are you going to see this clean up perhaps the backlog that you have if we can get this passed, in a timely manner?
So thank you for that question through you, Chair Harris, to Senator Hammond. As far as I understand it, the bill would go into effect October 1st. We would hope to immediately thereafter be able to offer services, working closely with the DMV, of course, to get that started in hopes to help clear that backlog. Many of our residents are used to either going to Elko or Ely. The Ely office has been closed for some time due to staffing constraints with COVID-19. And so getting into the Elko office, sometimes it doesn't work out for folks. And so we would want to be able to get them through quickly here at City Hall and get that up and running as quickly as possible.
And do you know how many other small cities this would actually impact?
Again, through you, Chair Harris, as far as I understand it from the DMV's fiscal note, this could impact up to 5 rural cities. I'm not sure entirely of which cities. I think Caliente would qualify as one of those cities. I know that in SB 65 last session, they were covered, so I would assume they would be covered under this bill. I'm not sure who the other 3 that the DMV.
Not necessarily to know the names. I just wanted to kind of get an idea of how many. So that you answered that question. Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions for the mayor? Okay, I have one just kind of basic question. Could you just tell the committee a little bit about how this would work in practice? So would City Hall essentially have a mini DMV in it where the employee belongs to the city but is performing DMV functions? How would that work in actuality? Do you need access just to the back end of DMV services to be able to do what they do already?
Thank you for that question. That's a good question. So the DMV already runs a similar program through many of the county assessors' offices throughout the rural counties in the state. And so the way it works there is it would be a county assessor employee who runs those functions. It is only it's only registration services in most of the counties. I think Story County does some of the tax exempt services. City Hall, we would look to only do registration services. That would require training on behalf of the DMV for city employees. Like I said before, we anticipate it would require us to hire an additional employee. Just based off of the DMV's estimates, we would do roughly about 6,000 transactions a year, which would be 24 more people coming into City Hall a day. And so we would look to be hiring another person to help offset some of that workload. It would also require some equipment that the DMV would provide, as they currently do with the county assessors, as far as IT hookups and computers, as well as card readers and of that sort.
And Mayor, does your city have any of those kind of nice little standalone kiosks that we have kind of down south? If not, would you plan on also bringing one of those in?
So that's a great question. It's something that we have looked at with the DMV. Unfortunately, the vendor who provides those kiosks to the DMV has said time and time again that those will not work just because there isn't enough transactions to make those viable. And so they've looked at that as recently as 2019. And it wasn't viable. It's been something that we've talked about since 2015, but the vendor just doesn't see enough workload for those to pencil out for the DMV.
Okay, thank you for that. Any additional questions before we turn it over for testimony? All right, I'm not seeing any. BPS, please go ahead and open up the line for testimony in support of SB 48.
Thank you, Chair. Callers, if you wish to testify in support of SB 48, please press *9 now to enter your place in the queue. Will the caller with the last 3 digits of 876 please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You may begin now. Caller with the last three digits of 876, will you please slowly state and spell your name for the record? You may begin now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Okay. Hi, my name is Robert Trujillo. I'm calling from West Wendover, Nevada. I'm a resident. I'm also the city councilman in West Wendover, and I'm just calling in support for a DMV in West Wendover. It is highly needed. Like Mayor Corona mentioned, we have to travel from West Wendover to Elko, sometimes to Ely, and sometimes not the greatest condition. Sometimes it's snowing, weather-wise, and so that plays a big risk factor sometimes. By having a DMV at the City Hall, that would help us tremendously. It would, save us time and money. And so anyways, I just called in support, and I hope my call is of any help for the residents of West Wendover.
Caller with the last three digits of 023, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You may begin now.
Hello, my name is Nick Flores, Nickflores. Members of the board, thank you for this time. I just want to say thank you for having us up here. I just want to call in and show my support for SB 48. I'm also a council member for the city of West Wendover. Having the DMV services for our community would be a great impact, especially for our residents. For many years, most of our residents have traveled back and forth to Elko and Ely, as it's been stated before. This is something that it takes almost an entire day, and if you forget a certain paperwork, it's another additional day that you have to go back and do your services. But having something here in West Wendover would have be a great impact to our community, and also be one of those things that we can greatly appreciate having. Again, thank you for your time.
If there are any more callers wishing to testify in support of SB 48, please press star 9 now to enter the queue. Once again, to testify in support of SB 48, please press star 9 now to enter your place in the queue. Chair, at this time, there are no more callers wishing to testify in support of the bill.
Okay, thank you. Let's open it up for anyone who'd like to testify in opposition to SB 48.
Absolutely. Callers, if you wish to testify in opposition to SB 48, please press star 9 now to enter your place in the queue. Once again, if you'd like to testify in opposition to SB 48, please press star 9 now to enter your place in the queue. All right, Chair Harris, at this time, it appears no callers wish to testify in opposition to SB 48.
Okay, we'll take those who'd like to testify in the neutral position.
If anyone would like to testify in the neutral position for SB 48, please press star 9 now to enter your place in the queue. Will the caller with the last three digits of 101 please slowly state and spell your name for the record? You may begin now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, committee members. Sean Sever from the DMV, SEAN, last name SEVER, for the record. And we are neutral, but have concerns with this bill. We would like to provide DMV services to West Wendover. And in fact, as the mayor mentioned, we are working with them on this effort to hopefully avert this bill going forward. So just briefly, I'd like to share a quick timeline with you to show where we're at with this bill. August 13th of 2020, Mayor Corona contacted the DMV director about West Wendover putting this forward. The next day, on August 14th, the director responded to say that the DMV has spent a lot of time analyzing this bill, which was actually SB 65 in the 2019 legislative session. And we wanted to see how we could make it work. And the bill, no one showed up at the hearing on the assembly side to testify on this bill, and the bill failed. So August 18th of 2020, the director asked me to work with the mayor and on this effort. And on September 3rd of 2020, I notified the mayor that the DMV was going to submit this project at our agency so we could avoid going forward with the legislative bill. And they initially agreed to cover the cost of the equipment and the training. So we the DMV put together an interlocal contract accordingly. And then in January 6th of this year, the contract was sent to West Wendover. And then 3 days later, on January 9th, the mayor responded to my email from the day before saying the city manager had some concerns, and they sent the contract to their legal counsel for review. And their next step would be to bring it forward to their city council after they got their questions answered, which were all provided by the DMV to West Wendover through several emails in mid-January. And then it culminated on February 2nd of this year when the mayor informed me that the city manager and a council person had reviewed the contract, and their perception was that this was a very lopsided deal because they would have to hire additional staff. And this was the first time we had heard of this, and also pay for the equipment and training, which we had agreed on previously. So he asked if the DMV could help with the costs, and I replied that the DMV thought that they were using existing staff for this, and that DMV was in no position financially to cover any of these costs. So I asked if we could set up a meeting to further discuss this and work together on it, and the mayor never responded. So in summary, the DMV has made multiple attempts to make this work with West Wendover, and it has always come up short of the finish line. We are happy to work with them on it. However, the DMV is in no position to help fund this effort when we are making budgetary cuts and eliminating unfilled positions. So thank you, Chair, and I have several people on the line in my office that can answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sever. We will not be taking questions during the testimony, but I encourage you to have continued conversations with the bill sponsor.
Will do, thank you.
Chair, at this time, there are no more callers wishing to testify in a neutral position for SB 48.
Okay. Mayor Corona, would you like to make any concluding remarks before we close out the hearing?
Yes, thank you. I would just like to, again, thank the committee for holding this hearing on this bill. I would also just quickly like to address something that was brought up through the DMV. One of the biggest issues, and it remains the biggest issue for the city, is that accessing the governmental service tax that the DMV collects on each service. Our understanding and our legal counsel's understanding was that was not included in the proposed agreement between the city and the DMV. And our legal counsel's determination was that because of the language in NRS only stating counties being eligible for that 5%, that the city would be ineligible. And so that is the reason why we ultimately decided to bring forward this bill. And we appreciate, again, you holding this hearing today.
All right, thanks for joining us. And with that, I will go ahead and close the hearing on SB 48. We will now move to public comment.
Chair Harris?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I had my little yellow hand up
Oh,
there.
you're right, you did, and I didn't see it. Vice Chair Brooks,
That's okay.
please.
Yeah, before you close the hearing, I just would urge Mayor Corona and his council to continue dialogue with the DMV. It sounds like the ball might be in your court, and there are some further conversations that need to take place. And at the very least, I think we should run any of those options to ground. While in parallel, we've heard the bill and worked through that process. But I wouldn't say it's an either or. I would say that you should definitely continue to follow up with those conversations with DMV, either through your counselor, however you.
Any other comments before we reclose the hearing? All right, seeing none, we will now again close the hearing on SB 48 and open it up for public comment. BPS, will you poll the line?
Thank you, Chair. Callers, if you wish to give public comment, please press *9 now to enter your place in the queue. Once again, if you'd like to give public comment, please press *9 now to enter your place in the queue.
And while we're waiting, if the secretary would please mark Senator Spearman present as she joined us 5-10 minutes ago.
Chair, the line is open and working, and we do have a few callers. However, none of them have indicated that they wish to give public comment.
All right, well, in that case, we will go ahead and close public comment. Are there any comments from any of the members before we adjourn today's meeting? All right, seeing none, our next meeting will be on February 24th. At 3:30 p.m. sharp. I look forward to seeing you all there. Seeing nothing further, we are adjourned.